Hi, and welcome back to the channel. We are continuing The Witcher. This is episode 7 of season 1, and it is called Before a Fall. Which, just from the title, maybe it's going to show us a little bit more of Cintra before the fall of Cintra, maybe? I don't know. I haven't read a lot since we started this series, kind of on purpose, because I want to be surprised. The last thing I really read, actually, was... The Last Wish, which is the Bottled Appetites episode, and also read the short story of the last episode as well, Bounds of Reason, which is Rare Species. And we enjoyed that episode, even though it was very different from the short story in many regards. Yeah. It was still a very enjoyable piece of television. So, yeah, there. Do you have anything else you want to get into before we start this episode?
As you can see, I'm wearing a very new thrifted sweater, knit sweater, and also I have done something to my wrist, just so you,
know what's going on there with the weird.
It's to stabilize it and make it rest. I don't have a proper thing for my wrist yet, but sometimes it happens.
And it's more of a
precaution
thing than so that you don't get an injury. But now you know.
Permanent injury.
Yes. All right. Let's just jump into it. And as always, you can watch our full-length reactions on Patreon. The link is down in the description below. Here we go. Okay, that was episode 7, and it was a shorter one, as we just noticed, like right before we pressed play. It was 40-something minutes, 45, 47 minutes. And to me, it very much functioned as a binding all the parts together kind of deal.
And something.
Yes, and leading up to the finale, I'm guessing here, where it's really gonna, I think, unite the stuff and Ciri and Geralt maybe, and then that's gonna lead into the second season, is what I'm guessing right now, even without having seen it. There was a lot of information in this episode. A lot of stuff that we knew beforehand, but also a lot of new stuff as well. So yeah, what do you want to dive into first?
I don't even know where to start. Well, I can say so much that I think they've taken a lot of liberties.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I didn't expect to see this early.
Mm-hmm.
The scene we saw where Geralt saw Ciri playing with the boys in the courtyard. In the books, something like that happens when she's 6, 8, 10 years old. And that's when he comes to Cintra first to claim her, and just as we saw, Calanthe was not happy about it and asked him to fucking leave.
Yes, he's not having it. Fuck Destiny.
So what they did here was actually that they kind of pulled this thing from back in the day, or in the books back in the day, they actually pulled it up to straight before the fall of Cintra.
Yeah. So
I can't remember where Geralt actually was headed or where he was at in the books at this point, but I feel like he was definitely not in a cell under Cintra. But once again, I understand why they do this.
Yeah. And it makes sense for the story, for the narrative that they are building here with the series.
And once again, the second time they met was the first time Ciri really met him was in the Brocklin Forest. I don't think they're gonna show that.
No, it seems like they're done with the Brocklin Forest. They
and it's such a big part of a long part of the journey, and especially for Geralt. And I'm very sorry if I just spoiled something here that's gonna happen. I don't know if we're gonna go back to Brocklin.
No. But it's a possibility. Like
he might go look for her now, right? Because we still haven't exactly caught up between where Ciri is now and where Geralt is headed. Perhaps he's headed towards Brocklin and he ends up there after Ciri's been there. We don't exactly know.
Yeah.
So this could be a possibility. And in the books, he was there for quite a while. And yeah, a lot of things happen. Yeah, and as I said, there's so many things that I did not expect to see so early on. Forming of the Lodge, or possibly forming of the Lodge of Sorceresses.
Yeah, the thing that Tasaya was talking to Yennefer about there at the ending, right?
Possibly. It might be that. And I cannot remember if it's called the Lodge of Sorceresses now, or if it's something that they call it in the books. No, in the games.
Yeah. Vilgefortz seems like he's a part of this now as well. So there's a sorcerer as well amongst the sorceresses.
And I did not expect him to pop up this early, and that's also why I was a little bit like, "Whoa, is that Vilgefortz? Because he's here now already."
Yeah.
Because I thought it was he would be introduced in
maybe later seasons or something.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the first time we're introduced to him in the books, Geralt is actually accompanying Yennefer or someone on a separate business or something, but a big banquet at court. He's meeting them there, and this is where we also know that get the idea. We're getting, of course, introduced a lot to a lot of the sorceresses through that story.
In the books, not
in the books.
Okay.
And we also get the idea that sorceresses are very...
They're kind of promiscuous looking.
Yep. Okay. A lot of them, except for Triss, that is actually very high-necked and well covered.
More reserved.
Definitely,
Yes.
Definitely.
So she's not using her attributes the same way as other sorceresses who are using it more as a weapon, as we've seen Yennefer do in the series.
But I also understand they were very liberal with the way of using Frigilla Vigo instead of some of the other Nilfgaardian sorceresses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did this to put someone we know into the Nilfgaardian
camp or side.
Instead of these new sorceresses that we will get to. I don't know if we're gonna. I think they cut down a lot on the different sorceresses.
That also it makes a lot of sense when you are doing an adaptation. That if there is like, if you can take 10 characters and put them into one and not like lessen the story or anything by doing that, it's gonna be easier for people to follow. And so that makes a lot of sense that they just took Frigilla as like she's gonna represent the magic side of Nilfgaard so far, at least.
I understand, but of course sometimes if they change a character that you like, even though it's a very small one, then it can sometimes get a little bit sad you can be a little bit like, oh, why didn't we get to know him or her? And of course I understand why they do it. It's just
Yeah. Sure. I'm not sure who you're talking about here, but maybe that's a good thing.
I'm afraid I would spoil anything.
Don't.
So.
Let's just. All right, let's get into what happened in the episode then, and let's talk about this series specifically. We got Geralt showing up at Cintra, and he was ready to, take responsibility for this law surprise, and wanted to take the kid off their hands, and thought it was a he at first, but then of course figured out that it's a she. And what then happened to Dooney and Pavetta? That was some sort of storm. Okay, you're smiling as there's something in the books about it, or okay, all right. So let's not talk about that then. But so she's like the only heir. So you can also understand Calanthe, that she's like, I want to, and she is very arrogant, and you definitely see that on display in this episode. At first, when she talks to Geralt when he shows up, and she tries to cheat him by giving him another girl, which of course he figured it out. He's not fucking stupid. But she was still just so fucking arrogant about it. Like, no, we're not gonna fall. Like, we have this army, we have the navy, and we have me. Like, I'm the ultimate warrior, ultimate queen. Nobody can fuck with me. But we know how that ends, of course.
They even tied it up in this episode as well.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to get into. So they chose to like really tied together with the first episode and show us a lot of the same scenes actually, which is I understand why a lot of series do this just to make sure that everybody follows along. But I just, me personally, sometimes like I've seen this, I remember this. It's not that far away, and it didn't happen that long ago, like episode wise. So, but still, yeah, they showed a lot of stuff that we knew beforehand, but then tied it together with stuff that we didn't know. For example, that Calanthe, she decided to keep Geralt in Cintra, and lock him up. And he has been locked up for how long then? And I suspect not that long, because as you said, it seems like they've moved the events maybe closer to the fall of Cintra. So he was maybe only locked up for like
a couple of days.
Oh, maybe longer. I don't know.
But we saw...
But Nilfgaard was on their way, at least.
We saw how in the first episode with Ciri that was playing Knuckles.
Yes.
And that was when she was summoned to court.
Mm.
And where they had this good time. And exactly on that good day, or like that evening, they...
That's when they found out that Nilfgaard are
So
attacking.
he must have been kept for a day, maybe 2.
Okay, so you're thinking the scene that we saw where he spotted her out there playing Knuckles, that's the same scene from the first episode?
Well, it mirrored it, at least.
It mirrored it, yeah. I'm just thinking, maybe it's like days, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's a month or something, but definitely not longer than that.
And I don't know if people always wear the same clothes, like, for months straight back in the medieval days. They probably did, but...
If you were poor, definitely.
So of course I can be fooled by it. It was the exact same clothes. It was completely mirrored, I think.
Yeah. It's definitely very close by. And we got some more mouse sack as well, which is any opportunity for that actor to like get more screen time. I think that's a good decision because
him and Aced,
I love the characters, and I just think that the actors as well are doing a really good job, especially the guy who's playing Mousak, because he also played a very different role. Like
definitely.
that's the
like
last time
Sack,
we saw him. Yeah, as someone called him in the comments, fake Sack. Yeah. And he was really good at that as well. So it's just more screen time to him. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just making sure here. He is technically, not a sorcerer. He's a druid.
Druid, yeah.
Yeah, because he's from Skellige, so.
Yeah, but he's definitely apt in magic.
Yeah. But he's not part of, the other sorcerers and mages and stuff that we've seen.
That must also be the reason why they never wanted any sorcerer or sorceresses to come to Cintra. Because they already had, like, a court mage.
Yeah, they didn't need any, they didn't need anyone from Aretusa or Bernard or anything to come and help them, because they were like, we can fend for ourselves, and we have our own mage.
They probably didn't trust anyone.
No.
Else than their own alliances, which of course it's very that's very understandable, I say. But
yes, there are, like, on that note, with the northern kingdoms and stuff like that. There's because there are a lot of different kingdoms, and I could imagine, like, as they were talking about, and as Frangilla, she talked about as well, like, it is not the best, like, everything is not all rainbows and unicorns up in the north, and everything is just, like, many of these kings and their families and the way things have been going for hundreds of years are probably not doing anything good for the common people or the land, like the continent in general. So you can understand where, like, some of these Nilfgaardians come from. Like, if you try to understand what they're trying to do and be like, we're doing this for the people because we have a better solution, a better way of living, compared to how you guys have been doing it forever. That's at least how, like, I got that here, and it's also something that I've gotten from playing the games, at least, where Nilfgaard also plays a part.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that it's preferable or anything. I'm just saying that it's interesting to get into these politics and what they see as this is a good way of living and this isn't, and we want to make these decisions for the common people. We know what's best and all that. It's just it's interesting to me.
Yeah, and of course, we also in the in all sources of The Witcher, I think it's pretty much mentioned all around that people from Nilfgaard is actually have better living standards and everything. The only thing that's not so fucking fantastic about Nilfgaard is actually Emir, and because he's a very stern ruler, and he's he doesn't have clean flour in the bag, so.
Yeah. It's there's a lot about that character that maybe surely the show will get into at some point. He is a big figure there, and they talked about early in the show with the rightful heir coming back and stuff, and I'm guessing that's maybe him, or maybe I've missed something. If not, they'll get into it, and then we'll talk about it when we get to that point. I can see you are almost bursting with information right now, so let's move on. What else happened? A lot of Yennefer stuff that, to me, while it kind of doubled down on her character and her regrets with having her choice taken away from her, even though I would argue that she knew what she was going into, that's still a big part of her and her resentment towards Aretusa and the other sorceresses and all that. It played a big part, and they also showed us a lot of like previous scenes and stuff from her story that we've seen before. Yep. Just to tie it all together once again.
And I think most people can understand that feeling that when you go back to where you come from, for example, if you live far away from your childhood home, when you go back, you will get all these memories, and sometimes if you hear certain pieces of music, or see certain views, like natural views or something, it will recall something deep inside you from that point in time, and you are going through all of these emotions, whether they're good or bad. And so in that way, I think we can all relate to Yennefer's situation, that she relives all of this, both good and bad things, I think.
Yes.
And she's just getting pissed that everything is not as it used to be. And, well, of course, I think maybe it's relatable. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Things, even your childhood, like wherever you grew up, like even those places, they're gonna change, and everything's not gonna stay the same. So it all came rushing back to her, and then she was confronted with it's not even how it used to be. Like, these girls are not here because of their magic. They're here because they are highborn, and the kingdoms will pay you like a lot of money. So this is basically just a survival thing for you now.
And as Tisaya said, this is sometimes you have to compromise with things. I think that's it's just
that's a very real
thing. That's a very real thing, because at some point you will always come to this. Well, do you have to sacrifice your integrity, or do you have to sacrifice your way of living, for example, with a job, or if
exactly. So, but she definitely wanted Yennefer's help, and it does seem like, as Vilgefortz also said, that Tisaya really admires Yennefer in the way that she is probably one of, if not the most talented sorceress that she has ever trained. So there's some bond there still, even though Yennefer kind of tries to distance herself from Tisaya and their relationship. But something's gonna happen there. That's for sure.
And
it's because
at least also why Tisaya is one of my they have so many favorite characters, really, but she's one of the ones I would categorize as good people, and she has a very tight relationship with Yennefer, and she also has it in the books, and she's actually, even though she might have a very stern exterior, she's very fond and protective of her girls.
Yeah.
And
she runs on emotion, as she also talked about, like in the second episode or something, when Yennefer came to her too. So first, like that's who we are. We have like we are very emotional people.
Yeah, in the in the series, yeah.
Yeah, in the series, that's what I'm talking about. So
Okay, I was talking about the books.
Sorry, it can be hard sometimes just jumping back and forth between, because I don't know her from the books.
No.
I've never, so I can only speak to her as a character from the series so far, at least. And we got all these like this big get together of all the sorcerers and sorceresses, and it kind of seemed like, we had Stregobor on one side preaching one approach to this situation, and then we had Tessaya and Vilgefortz on the other side preaching another approach to the situation, that we should maybe, unite and do something to defend the North from, and especially Cintra from Nilfgaard. But they took a vote, and that was pretty much it. Except that, as we just talked about, Tessaya then wants to do something different, and in secrecy maybe. But in that scene, it's always nice to see Lars Mikkelsen again. Wasn't expecting to see that much of Stregobor in this series overall, but I like that they're using him, and it's one of those cases with like same as Fringilla, where it's probably multiple characters that there are putting into one character, in a sense, and using him more than he was maybe in the books, because isn't he only in that one short story?
Yeah, he is. But I think this whole scene, I don't recall anything exactly like that in the books.
No, okay.
So I'd say that Stregobor is just like, they took a character that was introduced and like a minor character, and then they just used him for something else as well.
Yeah, okay. I was just thinking, like, maybe there are characters in the books who are like of the same mindset as him, when it comes to staying clear of the politics and of Nilfgaard and Cintra and all that.
I must admit that all the war stuff and a lot of the political stuff was something that I read, but
it wasn't your favorite part of the whole thing.
No, definitely not. My favorite part is, by all means, the short stories, of course, and to some degree, a little bit of Geralt's story and Ciri's story, like
in the saga,
like their paths through the saga.
Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. So this, at least, the way this episode ended, it seems like we're going to go straight into the next one. This is going to lead straight into the next one. Someone also mentioned that it would be a good idea to watch episodes 7 and 8 together, which is that's what we're doing today. So, yeah, but that, at least that last scene also showed us that even though Ciri might have thought that, oh, these are my friends, and I've been playing Knuckle, what was it called? Knuckle something. I've been playing dice and stuff with these people for a while, and yeah, they're not your friends. They are your, they did it because they feared you, and you were the princess, and they had to let you win. So no, it was only from your point of view, maybe, that they were your friends, and they showed her that. So another big punch in the gut there for Ciri and like her worldview. You can see her becoming more and more of a cynic, or like independent at least, and like going her own way, not trusting anyone at all, even though that woman really tried to help her and be like, we'll go back to my place and I'm gonna take care of you and we'll go on these horses. And Ciri was just like, nope, I'm just gonna steal your horse and fuck off. So yeah.
And for a second there, I thought they were leading up to something that happens in the books. And then she just stole the horse, and I was just like, but what? What are you doing? But yeah. So that's why I gave I had an initial reaction to her. I was like, oh, because then I thought it would lead up to that point that I was thinking about. and it didn't.
So but no, they're in another direction. But yeah, we'll see where that goes in the next episode. So yeah, do you have anything more you want to add to this one?
Yeah, when you mentioned Istredd, and that whole in the start with the, and Istredd, I said yes. I would tell you. There's actually one of the short stories. I think it's after one of the breakups with Geralt, where she goes to see Istredd. That is one of her. She has basically two main lovers, and one is Geralt and one is Istredd, and I think I can't exactly remember, but they had a jolly good time together until she couldn't decide between them, and I think she also just left him because her heart will always be torn, I think, and she will always have had perhaps maybe not, but yeah, she had these on-off relationship with definitely more people than Geralt. As I've understood it so far, she actually genuinely cares for Istredd. But she is not the person to make commitments.
No. And maybe that was what he knew as well. Or, she's not the same person at all that he fell in love with.
But at least she kept her eyes, right?
She did. Yeah. If I had purple eyes, I wouldn't change that ever.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
But honestly, this short story I mentioned is not, once again, is not one of the things I remember because I really didn't care much for Boogian. And apparently people hate me for that, but
no, they're all
each to one's preferences, right?
Yeah, sure. Everybody has different preferences, and you can, I wasn't expecting to see Istredd again. Actually, I did, but that was only because I didn't know whether or not he was if it was only like he was playing a role in Yennefer's initial story there, and then he wasn't going to come back, and that was pretty much it. They just split up, and he was just her introduction into this whole thing. Or if he came back, and there was clearly still something between them, but he rejected her. It's safe to say.
Yeah, and Istredd is also one of the good examples of a character that you only meet once in the short stories. I think only once, and then they have kind of taken his character and made him more prominent in the series. So we also don't think it's weird that he's suddenly just there and she just leaves out of nowhere, basically after a big fight with Geralt, and she just leaves to go to seek comfort with him. That's not completely weird, because it's kind of weird in the short stories, but even though it's explained that they have it's an ongoing relationship. So I think it's quite brilliant. I think it's quite good, the way they have introduced him so early on, so we didn't get this. So it makes sense that she tries to go back to him to seek comfort after the big fight we just had in season 6.
And it worked as a way for her to be introduced to Vilgefortz, who then pulled her back into the whole Aretusa storyline and stuff. So makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I think we've talked about pretty much everything that happened in this episode. Even though it was a short one, it seemed like a lot happened, but that might also be because we were jumping around and a lot of politics and stuff like that. So yeah, it seems like a lot happened. If there's anything we missed, we'll talk about it in the next one, of course. But I think that's going to do it for this reaction and review to The Witcher Season 1, Episode 7. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you very soon. Bye!
Bye!
Oh.